Hello students. So in the last lecture we have discussed about urea cycle and metabolism of tyrosine and phenylalanine. So in the today's lecture we are going to discuss about catecholamines. So in the starting we are going to discuss about biosynthesis of catecholamines, or you can say synthesis of dopamine, noradrenaline, which is also called as norepinephrine, then adrenaline, that is epinephrine. So you might be having question in your mind that what is catecholamine. So basically the catechol refers to dihydroxylated phenyl ring. So you can see here in this structure, if you see, you have the phenyl ring with two hydroxyl group. So the catechols are dihydroxylated phenyl ring. The amine derivatives of catechol are called as catecholamine. So whenever you have the amine derivatives, then they are called as catecholamine. So the name of catechol refers to dihydroxylated phenyl ring, and the amine derivatives of catechol are called as catecholamine. So here we are going to discuss about the biosynthesis of dopamine, then norepinephrine and epinephrine. So if you see tyrosine to dopa, so this is dopa, that is dihydroxyphenylalanine, and to norepinephrine. So next, if you see, this is norepinephrine and non-epinephrine to epinephrine. So this is 1, 2, 3 and fourth step synthesis till epinephrine. So if you see the first step, or if you say, the tyrosine is the precursor for the synthesis of catecholamine, namely dopamine, norepinephrine and epinephrine, and the conversion of tyrosine to catecholamines, it majorly occurs in adrenal medulla and central nervous system. So tyrosine is first hydroxylated to 3,4 dihydroxyphenylalanine. So you can see here, that is your dopa 3,4 dihydroxyphenylalanine. So it is first hydroxylated at third and fourth position by the action of enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase. So this is first step is hydroxylation reaction. As I have told you in the last lecture also, you should remember these steps based on the type of reaction. Then the next step is the conversion of dopa to dopamine. So the enzyme involved here is aromatic amino acid decarboxylase. So from the enzyme name itself, you can understand this is decarboxylation reaction, where you can see here the changes in the structure. The CO2 group is being removed, and this enzyme, the conversion happens in presence of the coenzyme, that is PLP, pyridoxal phosphate. Then the next step, the dopamine is getting converted to norepinephrine in presence of enzyme, that is dopamine beta hydroxylase. So this is the next step, the hydroxylation reaction. So you can see here on this carbon, it is hydroxylated. And next step is the conversion of norepinephrine to epinephrine. So the enzyme involved is phenyl ethanol amine and methyl transferase. So you can see here the methyl group is being transferred, and it is from the S-adenosyl methionine, and it is being converted to S-adenosyl homocysteine. So this is the the four step synthesis till the epinephrine. The norepinephrine is produced in certain areas of the brain, while dopamine is predominantly synthesized in substantia nigra and locus coeruleus of brain. The functions of catecholamines are, it is to regulate carbohydrate and lipid metabolism. It also stimulates the degradation of triacylglycerol and glycogen, and they causes the increase in blood pressure. dopamine and norepinephrine. So dopamine and norepinephrine, they serves as neurotransmitters in the brain and ANS system. So these are the important functions. The norepinephrine and epinephrine, they regulates carbohydrates and lipid metabolism. It stimulates the degradation of triacylglycerol and glycogen. They causes increase in blood pressure. Then dopamine and norepinephrine, they serve as neurotransmitter in the brain and autonomous nervous system. So next point is, what is the relationship between dopamine and Parkinson's disease? So you might be aware about the Parkinson's disease. It is a common disorder in many elderly people, with about 1% of population above 60 years being affected. And it is described as shaking palsy, and it is characterized by muscular rigidity, then tremors, expression less face, then lethargy, and involuntary movements. So basically, Parkinson's disease is, however, it is linked with decreased production of dopamine, and the disease is due to degeneration of certain parts of brain, that is substantia nigra and locus coeruleus, leading to impairment in the synthesis of dopamine. So basically, the areas where the dopamine is being synthesized, that is substantia nigra and locus coeruleus, that leads to decrease. So the disease is due to degeneration of these areas, and because of which there is impairment in the synthesis of dopamine, and that leads to Parkinson's disease. So what is the treatment on this? So the main important thing is here, dopamine, it cannot enter the brain, and hence administration of dopamine is of no used. So levodopa is used in the treatment of Parkinson's disease. In the brain, the levodopa is decarboxylated to dopamine, which alleviates the symptoms of this disorder. Also, carbidopa and alpha methyl dopa, the DOPA analogs, are administered along with DOPA for the treatment of Parkinson's disease. So majorly here we are discussing about the biosynthesis of catecholamines. Catechols are the dihydroxylated phenyl rings. So majorly three important catechols. First is dopamine, second is norepinephrine, and third is epinephrine. So this is adrenaline or noradrenaline. So the main function is the regulation of carbohydrates and lipid metabolism, then degradation of fats, that is triacylglycerol and glycogen, maintenance of blood pressure. They cause increase in the blood pressure, and they serve as neurotransmitter. And if the dopamine synthesis is reduced because of the depletion in the substantia nigra and locus coeruleus, so it leads to Parkinson's disease. And the treatment for this is the levodopa is given instead of dopa, because dopamine, it cannot cross blood brain barrier. So when the levodopa is given, it crosses the blood brain barrier, it is decarboxylated to dopamine, which alleviates the symptoms of this disorder. Also, carbidopa and alpha methyl dopa, the analogs of the dopa, they are administered along with dopa for the treatment of Parkinson's disease. So that was about the biosynthesis of catecholamines. Next is the synthesis of serotonin, or which is also called as 5-hydroxytryptamine. So you can see here, it is the synthesis of serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine. Also in short, it is written as 5 capital HT. So what is tryptamine, 5-hydroxytryptamine or serotonin? It is a neurotransmitter synthesized from tryptophan. So dopamine norepinephrine and epinephrine, they are synthesized from tyrosine, as discussed in the previous slide. Now we are going to discuss about synthesis of serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine from tryptophan, or you can say it is the metabolism of tryptophan which synthesizes the serotonin. So it majorly synthesized in intestinal wall, and tryptophan to 5-hydroxytryptophan to PHT, 5-PHT. So let's see the degradation. So in the first step, tryptophan is getting metabolized or converted to 5-hydroxytryptophan in presence of enzyme tryptophan hydroxylase. So you can see over here the coenzyme which is involved, that is tetrahydrobiopterin. It is getting converted to H2-biopterin, dihydrobiopterin, and oxygen is being utilized and water molecule is released. So the enzyme involved in the first step in the conversion of tryptophan to 5-hydroxytryptophan is hydroxylase. So you can see here on the aromatic ring the hydroxylation. The second step is conversion of 5-hydroxytryptophan to serotonin, and the enzyme involved is aromatic amino acid decarboxylase. So you can see here the amino acid, the carboxylate group, okay, it is decarboxylated, it is removed, and it forms serotonin. So basically the metabolism of tryptophan in two steps, it gives serotonin, or you can say the synthesis of serotonin, it involves two steps. In the starting with the tryptophan, then the intermediate which is formed, that is 5-hydroxytryptophan, and then the serotonin. So what is the major role of this serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine? So the major function is it is a neurotransmitter. So it is a powerful vasoconstrictor and results in smooth muscle contraction in bronchioles and arterioles. It closely involved in the regulation of cerebral activity. The main important function is serotonin. It is regarded as happiness hormone, controls the behavioral pattern, sleep, blood pressure, and blood temperature. So it is functioning as happiness hormone. It controls the behavioral pattern, sleep, blood pressure, and body temperature. Then the next is it also evokes the release of peptide hormones from the gastrointestinal tract, and it is also necessary for the motility of GIT. So release of the peptide hormones and for the motility of the GIT. So peristaltic, it helps in the peristaltic movement. So in the synthesis of serotonin, you might be able to see here I have marked it with the red lines. So if the question is asked only about the serotonin, then you have to discuss till this point. And the next point is, when it is, if it is asked about the degradation of serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine, it is being acted upon or it is metabolized by the enzyme that is called as MAO, that is monoamine amino oxidase. They are the enzyme involved, and it forms the 5-hydroxyindole acetate. So you can see here the amine group is being removed and deamination you can call, and it forms the 5-hydroxyindole acetate. So there are different effects of drug. For example, iproniazid, if you see, it inhibits MAO and it elevates the serotonin level. So what is going to happen just now here in the function, we have discussed that it is happiness hormone. So whenever there is a high concentration of serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine in the blood, it leads to happiness. Okay, so if the iproniazid is given, and if it is going to inhibit the MAO, means its metabolism is decreased. That means it is going to increase the concentration of serotonin and is going to function leads to happiness. So the effects of drugs like the drug iproniazid, it inhibits MAO and elevates the serotonin level, and therefore the drug act as antidepressant. So therefore this drug is also called as antidepressant. On the other hand, if we give the reserpine as a drug, it increases the degradation. So reserpine, it is going to increase the degradation of serotonin, and it is going to act as depressant because serotonin concentration will decrease and the depression it leads to. Then another is lysergic acid, dimethyl, diethylamide. It acts as psychic stimulant by activating serotonin receptor. So lysergic acid, diethylamide, it acts as psychic stimulant by activating serotonin receptors. So this is about the biosynthesis of serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine. Next is the biosynthesis of melatonin. So again, the melatonin is being synthesized from the tryptophan. The intermediate step, if you see, it is the serotonin formed, and then further in the two steps, it forms the melatonin. So let's start with the melatonin. What is melatonin basically? Melatonin is a hormone mostly synthesized by the pineal gland of the body. It is produced from tryptophan. It is acted upon by serotonin. It is acted upon by serotonin and acetylase. So you can see here it is acted upon by serotonin and acetylase to give N-acetyl serotonin. So what is the difference in the structure? If you see here, the nitrogen, it is being acetylated, so acetyl group, therefore it is N-acetylase, and acetyl coenzyme A is involved in this step, and then later it undergoes methylation as adenosyl methionine. So you can see here the S adenosyl methionine, it is going to give the CH3 group, and the methylation, if you see here on the aromatic ring, the hydroxyl group, one of the proton is replaced with the methyl group, and the enzyme involved is N-acetyl serotonin O-methyl transferase. So this is how it is being synthesized, the melatonin. The synthesis and secretion from the pineal gland is controlled by light. So what are the functions? It is involved in circadian rhythm, so 24-hour cyclic process of the body. And it plays significant role in sleep and wake process. So it is important in the sleep and wake process. Second is it inhibits the production of enzymes like melanocyte stimulating hormones and adrenocorticotropic hormones. Then third function, it has inhibitory effect on ovarian functions. And the last is it also performs the neurotransmitter function. So the synthesis of melatonin, the melatonin is being synthesized from tryptophan, or you can say tryptophan, or the metabolite product is melatonin. So melatonin from the tryptophan is synthesized in 4 steps. First is conversion of tryptophan to 5-hydroxytryptophan, then 5-hydroxytryptophan to serotonin, then serotonin to N-acetyl serotonin, and then N-acetyl serotonin to melatonin. So tryptophan, if you see, the tryptophan metabolism and sleep correlation, as discussed just now, the tryptophan, it is the precursor for sleep inducing compounds like serotonin and melatonin. Thus it promotes sleep and found in variable amounts in all proteins food in protein foods. So if you go into the market and see many protein product, it contains the tryptophan. So to have sedative effect, tryptophan should enter the brain by crossing blood brain barrier. Tryptophan shares the same transport system as that of amino acid and thus it competes against the amino acids to enter into the brain. So eating the carbohydrate rich diet along with proteins is beneficial for the its absorption, and therefore the tryptophan is considered as sleep inducing amino acid. Then the next point here is the Hartnups disease, Hartnups. So what is Hartnups disease? This is the disorder which was first invented by Hartnup, the scientist, and therefore it is named as Hartnups disease. It is hereditary disorder of tryptophan metabolism, and the clinical symptoms include dermatitis, ataxia, mental retardation, etc. This disease is characterized by low plasma level of tryptophan and other neutral amino acids and their elevated urinary excretion. So this was about the melatonin, its biosynthesis and its function. Next point which is mentioned in the syllabus is the degradation of heme to bile pigment. So if you see here on the left side, it is mentioned, I have here it is the degradation, it is indicated in the cycle, the degradation of heme to bile pigment. So you can see here the bilirubin diglucuronide to bile. So how it is being formed, that we are going to discuss. So erythrocytes have a lifespan of 120 days, and at the end of this period they are removed from the circulation, and in this situation the erythrocytes are taken up and degraded by the macrophages of the reticuloendothelial system in the spleen and liver, and the hemoglobin is cleaved to protein part, that is globin, and the non-protein part, that is heme. So erythrocytes, after their lifespan, they are being cleaved to the protein part, that is globin, and the non-protein part, that is heme. About 6 grams of hemoglobin per day is broken down and resynthesized in adult man weighing about 70 kg. So this is important point. About 6 gram of hemoglobin per day is broken down and it is resynthesized in adult man that is weighing about 70 kg. What is the source of heme? So the source of heme is 80% it comes from erythrocytes, just now we have discussed, and 20% is from immature RBCs, then myoglobin and cytochromes. So let's discuss the different steps. So if you see the degradation, the first thing is happening in the macrophage, that is the hemoglobin being degraded to heme, then heme is being converted to biliverdin in presence of enzyme, that is heme oxygenase, and then biliverdin is getting converted to bilirubin in presence of enzyme, that is biliverdin reductase. So this conversion of hemoglobin to heme, then heme to biliverdin, and biliverdin to bilirubin is uh, happening in the macrophage. Then the bilirubin, it forms the complex with the bilirubin albumin complex, and that is being transported from blood to the liver. So again, in the blood it is bilirubin albumin complex, and in the liver it is bilirubin to bilirubin diglucuronide. So in the liver, the conversion of bilirubin to bilirubin diglucuronide in presence of enzyme, that is bilirubin glucuronyl transferases. So there it utilizes the uridine diphosphate glucuronate, and this is being in the soluble form. So in the liver, bilirubin is conjugated with 2 molecules of glucuronate supplied by UDP glucuronate, and this reaction is catalyzed by bilirubin glucuronyl transferase. It results in the formation of water soluble bilirubin diglucuronide. And when bilirubin is in excess, the bilirubin monoglucuronide also accumulates in the body. So bilirubin monoglyceride, it accumulates in the body, and the enzyme bilirubin glucuronil transferase can be induced by drugs like, for example, phenobarbital. So phenobarbital, it can be given to induce the enzyme, that is bilirubin glucuronil transferase, which converts bilirubin to bilirubin diglucuronide. So its excretion of bilirubin to bile, it is conjugated bilirubin is excreted into bile. So you can see here the blood, then bilirubin albumin, it is uptake into the liver. In the liver, by UDP glucuronil transferase, it forms diglucuronide. This is the conjugation. And then in the third step is secretion. So uptake, conjugation, and secretion. So you can see in liver, bilirubin is conjugated with two molecules of glucuronate in presence of enzyme glucuronil transferase to form water soluble diglucuronide. And when bilirubin is in excess, the enzyme glucuronil transferase can be induced by example drug, that is example phenobarbital. So this bilirubin concentration, it leads to, if it is increased, it leads to hyperbilirubinemia, and also it is called as jaundice. And this is being classified into three types, that is hemolytic jaundice, then hepatic jaundice, and obstructive jaundice. So let's discuss about what is hemolytic jaundice. So if you see, it is associated with increased hemolysis of erythrocytes. More bilirubin is excreted into bile, leading to increased formation of urobilinogen and sarcobilinogen. So here, once the bilirubin diglucuronide is formed, it is being absorbed in the intestine or the kidney, and is being acted upon by the microbial enzyme that is uh, uh, present in the intestine, and gets converted into urobilinogen. And then the urobilinogen is getting converted into urobilin, which is then excreted into urine. And urobilinogen, it also gets converted into stercobilin and is being excreted into feces, and this is being acted upon by the microbial enzymes. So here, in case of hemolytic jaundice, the bilirubin is excreted into bile, leading to increased formation of urobilinogen and sarcobilinogen. And how this is being characterized, it is characterized by the presence of dark brown color feces due to high concentration of stercobilinogen. So presence of stercobilinogen gives the dark color to the feces. So basically, what is hemolytic jaundice? It is associated with increased hemolysis of erythrocytes. So this the important point you have to remember, why it is called as hemolytic jaundice. It is due to increased hemolysis of erythrocytes. And then the conversion that we have already discussed from hemoglobin to urobilinogen or stercobilinogen. And this urobilinogen and sarcobilinogen is responsible for giving the characteristic color. The next is the hepatic jaundice. The hepatic jaundice is caused by dysfunction of liver due to damage to the parenchymal cell, and this can be due to viral infection, then poisons and toxins like chloroform or carbon tetrachloride that leads to cirrhosis of liver. Cirrhosis means inflammation, then cardiac failure, etc. So damage to the liver, it affects bilirubin uptake and its conjugation by liver cell. So here we have seen in liver the conjugation step happens. So if there is damage to the liver itself, then this diglucuronide formation will not occur, and that leads to hepatic jaundice. So it is characterized by increased level of conjugated and unconjugated bilirubin in the liver, dark color of urine due to excess excretion of urobilinogen. So here in hepatic jaundice, it is the concentration of urobilinogen is observed in the higher concentration. In case of hemolytic jaundice, it is the both formation of urobilinogen and stercobilinogen. So this is characteristic in case of hepatic jaundice. and the patient passes pale colored stools due to the absence of stercobilinogen. So stercobilinogen is not formed in case of hepatic jaundice, and because of which there is a pale colored stool observed. Then the last is obstructive jaundice. This is due to obstruction in bile duct that prevents the passage of bile to the intestine. So you can see here, so from the liver, the bilirubin diglucuronide is being absorbed into the intestine. So this absorption is inhibited. So again, this is due to obstruction in bile duct that prevents the passage of bile into intestine. So in the intestine it is not being absorbed, and then further conversion will not happen. And obstruction may cause by gallstone or tumor, etc. And it is being characterized by increased concentration of conjugated bilirubin, dark color urine, that is because of bilirubin, or clay colored feces due to absence of cercobilinogen, and it also leads to nausea and the gastrointestinal pain. So here we have discussed about the degradation of heme to bile pigment. So here we have seen there are uh, how many steps. If you count 1 2 3, then this is the complex formation 4, then fifth, sixth, and the seventh step. So it is seventh step, and the disease condition which leads to hyperbilirubinemia, or also called as jaundice. And it there are three types. First is hemolytic jaundice, second is hepatic jaundice, and third is obstructive jaundice. Hemolytic jaundice is because of increased hemolysis of erythrocytes characterized by presence of urobilinogen and cercobilinogen. Then hepatic jaundice is because of dysfunction of liver, and that is being characterized by the presence of only urobilinogen. Then obstructive jaundice is because the diglucuronide which is formed, it is not being absorbed into the intestine. So obstruction in bile duct that prevents the passage of bile to into intestine, and that is being characterized by increased concentration of conjugated bilirubin that gives dark color to the urine, and also it causes nausea and GI pain. So students, here the important questions which can be asked on this topic is, for example, if we start with the first point, that is uh, biosynthesis, discuss about the biosynthesis of uh, DOPA or norepinephrine or epinephrine. Then what are the, also explain what are the uses or what is the significance. Then discuss about the biosynthesis of serotonin, discuss about the biosynthesis of melatonin, then discuss about the degradation of heme to bile pigment, and discuss about the jaundice. So here what is important, in the previous cases also I have informed you that you have to remember the different drug molecules which are explained in each cycle in the disease condition. For example, if it is dopamine and Parkinson's disease, and if dopamine concentration is depleted, then levodopa is given, so that you have to write it properly. Okay, so we will stop here. Thank you.